Hello, my name's Paul Thompson. I'm Director of Education for the Diocese of Lincoln.
And I'm Justine Allain Chapman. I'm the Chair of the Lincoln Diocesan Board of Education and the Archdeacon of Boston. We hope you've enjoyed seeing the adults and children in our multi-academy trusts. It's great to see what a tangible difference MATs have made to our church schools. Paul, can you tell us about the MAT strategy for the diocese?
Yes, certainly. Effectively, the DBE wants what's right for church schools, for the long-term future for the schools, and it is the governing board's responsibility to determine the strategic direction for the school within the scope of the DBE policy. Whatever the governing board decides, the church school will always be a church school, whether that's a local authority school, a single academy trust or part of a MAT. They will always be part of the church school family. What our role is as a diocese is we want to ensure that governors are supported to make well-informed decisions. The key aim is that we work together, the DBE and the governing boards, to ensure that we secure the long-term future for church schools in the diocese so that all children and adults can flourish.
So how many MATs do we have or want to have?
So we've got 4 MATs established at the moment. The aim is that we have 6 MATs serving the Diocese of Lincoln. And it's really important that the MATs serve different schools from different contexts, that the MATs have small schools, medium schools, large schools, urban and rural, voluntary aided, voluntary controlled, the vulnerable and the strong schools as well. The strategy wouldn't work if one multi-academy trust had all the small schools. We need a rich mix of schools in all of the MATs.
So tell us a bit more about how it works.
Okay, well, I would like to spend a moment just to clarify what we mean by majority church MATs, because what we're saying as a Board of Education is that a church school can only join a majority church MAT. But there is a misconception out there about what do we mean by a majority church MAT. Some governors and some schools are thinking that means, we have to join a MAT where the majority of the schools are part of a MAT. That is not what we mean by the majority term. What we mean is that the top tier of governance, the members, the majority of the members are appointed by the Board of Education, by the diocese. And that then enables the DBE to have the powers to ensure that the Christian character of church schools is preserved and developed. It's then that the members will appoint the directors, and the directors will set the strategic vision, and then they'll appoint a local academy committee. And that local academy committee will ensure that the community is served well by its local school, and that the uniqueness of that school is retained within a multi-academy trust. Alongside the governance model, we've got a central team for each of the MATs, and those people in the central team will support the MATs to grow and develop with HR, with finance, with school improvement and so on.
So joining a majority church MAT is about joining a community of schools where the Christian character is emphasised, and also local roots are really very important.
That's right.
So tell us about our church MATs that a school of ours will join.
Okay, so we've got 4 church MATs established at the moment, and you can see on the screen that we've got the Lincoln Anglican Academy Trust, and that's our original diocesan multi-academy trust. It's got 23 schools in there at the moment, serving primary and secondary schools across the diocese. We've also got the Infinity Academy Trust, 13 schools in that MAT, and there is a mix there of community and church schools. We've got the St Lawrence Academy Trust with 3 schools in there, based in North Lincolnshire, and we've also got the Abbey Academy Trust. You'll notice as well that Keystone Academy Trust are in a slightly different colour on the screen, and that's because they're not yet approved by the DFE to be a church MAT, but the DBE has given consent for them to be a church MAT, and we hope they'll be on board very soon. So
we've got 4, nearly 5.
That's right.
And our aim is to have 6.
Aim is to 6, that's right.
So why would you consider joining a church MAT? One of the things we've been really aware of in the Board of Education is the pressures that are facing schools at the moment. So You can see on the diagram there lots of pressures on schools. There's a lack of central services in many cases. There's a property and green agenda which is important and demanding of our schools. The workload and well-being of staff in schools is of great concern. The recruitment and leadership capacity, particularly of heads, but of others, is something that's pressurising the schools and governors as they consider their future. Finances, falling numbers is a really big thing in the next few years in Greater Lincolnshire. And also the SEND provision, how can this be the best that it can be for our pupils? So lots of pressures, Paul. How can the MAT strategy help with these?
Yes, and you can see on the diagram those pressures bearing down upon a school. And how can the MAT strategy help? Well, the diagram shows on the screen that a school within a MAT can then start to begin to fend off some of those key pressures you've just mentioned. So, for example, with the school's desires to really give the best SEM provision for our young pupils.
And that can be shared.
That can be shared. So multi-academy trusts have shared Senkos that can share resources in terms of the budgets that are stretched in schools. MATs have that ability to achieve economies of scale. They can do sharing of resources and procuring contracts of services for all schools. For career development, it's really difficult, I think, in a small school for staff sometimes to have those career opportunities for promotion for heads of schools and other subject leaders. Within a MAT, you can start to see some career opportunities for having the shared Senko, for having subject leaders across schools within a MAT.
And that can help with recruiting heads.
That can help with recruiting heads, and we'll see heads of schools and executive heads within MATs as well. Also, to help with recruiting and retaining heads is that in a MAT, there's the central team supporting with those functions such as HR and finances and properties. And that allows then the head teacher to focus on what they're best at, and that is teaching and learning within a MAT, and those other functions can go to the central team. And our MATs, we have seen some really good successes in terms of securing capital investment grants, and we've seen schools develop in terms of their property and their premises. And then the central teams, they offer school improvement, they offer HR, finance and other functions to really support that wraparound care for schools.
So any school can be supported. Good schools can be supported and small schools can be
Yes,
supported.
and it's really important to note that good schools can get even better in multi-academy trusts, and schools with vulnerabilities can also benefit from being in a MAT.
So Paul, there's a lot of information here. There are pressures on schools now, and in the future there are benefits from joining a MAT. What do you advise governors to do now?
I think it's really important that governors now start to have that conversation. They need to evaluate the pressures upon the school, the pressures that they face now and the pressures that could be coming along in the future. They also need to evaluate the school's capacity to manage those pressures so that they don't negatively impact on the well-being of staff and pupils. They need to ensure that they've got accurate information available to them. The accurate information about the pressures, but also what MATs can offer. And then they need to take action before pressures get a grip and start to impact on the quality of education.
So is that a kind of 5-year, 10-year kind of a look?
Well, it will be different for each school, but and the pressures will come along at different stages. But I would say that the conversation starts now. They need to have that 3 to 5 year plan in terms of look at their budgets, look at their staffing, look at the head teacher and how long they think the head teacher may be imposed for. All of those things they need to really take stock of and evaluate and take action about the long-term future of the school, as soon as they can, really, because if they wait too long, if schools wait too long and those pressures start to impact on the quality of education, and then standards start to fall, and it's getting more and more difficult to recruit and retain staff, then they become less attractive for maths, and the choice of maths is a lot more restricted.
So the time to take action is now, when you're a good school, and being a good school is about planning for the future.
That's right. It's like fixing the roof while the sun is shining. So I'd like to really just end talking about this diagram that's on the screen. And you can see on the left of the diagram, it's a rather messy landscape. You'll see on the screen that we've got a mix of schools. We've got local authority schools, we've got single academy trusts, they're the small circles floating around, we've got multi-academy trusts as well. And they all operate under different governance structures. And that's really difficult, I think, for the DBE to maintain an oversight, to provide the support and the challenge that schools need to flourish. So the DBE have now said it is their desire and preference that schools join multi-academy trusts. And that will then translate into what you can see on the right of the screen, a neater landscape. We'll have the DBE firmly in the centre, supporting the MATs, which have got all the church schools in there, and then we're much stronger and better placed to support schools to develop and enable all adults and children to flourish.
So I can see that we're at something of a tipping point. It's messy still, and it's probably neater on the other side than it will ever be, but 57% of all primary schools are currently maintained by a local authority. 43% are academies, under half are in academies, but more pupils, 55% of our pupils are being educated in academies. So very much a tipping point from local authority maintained to academies.
That's right, yeah. I think we have now reached that tipping point where the majority of pupils within the diocese are now attending academies, then maintain schools.
So we don't want to snooze and then lose.
No, that's right. And as schools are joining multi-academy trusts, schools then need to take stock of the support and the resources that are sitting outside of the MAT arena, because inevitably there will be less resources and less support in the maintained sector as more and more schools join multi-academy trusts.
So now is the time to consider.
That's
For
right.
the present,